right, we're going to go from words to equations. So the first thing you need to do is you're going to have to identify your variables. Now we would normally use y equals mx plus b. And that's what we're going to use, our slope-intercept form. But we're not going to use x and y. We're going to come up with other variables that are going to actually describe what's happening in the word problem. So Dan receives $100 for a graduation present and deposits it into his savings account. He puts $5 per week into the same account. All right, so we're going to underline $5 per week. Per week. That's your constant rate. So every week, Dan is depositing $5 into his account, the constant rate. That $100 would be his starting point. He puts that into the account, and then every week after that, he deposits $5. So that's our starting point, which is another way to say the y-intercept. So I'm going to identify my variables, and I'm going to say that W stands for weeks because it's per week, and then M is for the amount of money he has in his account. And I used a capital M so that we don't get that confused with our slope. So basically what this is the W is my X and the large capital M is my Y. So when I put that into parentheses, I would put WM, which is the same as saying X, Y. Okay, so what is my slope? My slope is going to be equal to $5 per week. Now, when we did word problems last year in 7th grade, we talked about key words that mean unit rate for that ratio of a unit rate. And that would be 5 per week, which is 5 over 1, $5 per week. We can write it, though, as just the whole number 5 because we know that 5 over 1 equals 5. Our y-intercept, also talked about earlier on, that y-intercept also could be a starting point. And in this case, it's a starting point of $100. Now, it's a starting point instead of passing through the y-intercept because this particular situation is only going to be graphed in the first quadrant. We're not going to have a 4-quadrant grid only in that one quadrant, which means positive, positive. All right, so our equation is going to be y equals mx plus b, which is the same as saying capital M equals slope times W plus b. And that would be M equals 5W plus 100. Okay, so that's fine, but what does it actually mean? What does that slope mean here? That slope means that $5 per week, $5 per week is deposited. $5 per week is deposited. What does that y-intercept mean? What does that $100 mean? That is the starting point. The initial amount of money deposited. Okay, it's the initial amount of money deposited. Now for the next two questions, we're actually going to use our equation. So I'm going to write down our equation. M is equal to 5W plus 100. How much money, there's a question, will Dan have in the bank after 15 weeks? So they gave us the weeks. Since they gave us the weeks, we are substituting in for W. They gave us the weeks. M is equal to 5 times 15 plus 100. 5 times 15 is 75 plus 100. So how much money does he have after 15 weeks? $175. So after 15 weeks, Dan has $175. Okay, we're going to use our equation again. after how many weeks, is the question, will Dan have $250 in the bank? So we're looking for weeks this time, so that means we're substituting that 250 in for the M. So 250 equals 5W plus 100. We're looking for how many weeks. So we have to determine what does W equal. It's a two-step equation. We're going to subtract 100 from both sides, and we will get 5W equals 150. Divide by 5. W is equal to 30. So after 30 weeks, Dan will have $250. Okay, first word problem. All right, second word problem. An airplane is 30,000 feet above the ground. It descends at the rate of 2,000 feet per minute. Now that word descends, that means it's going down. That should tell you that that has to be a negative number. So let's identify the variables. Okay, so we know we're going to be doing y equals mx plus b. But we want to substitute that x and that y. So what is it saying? An airplane is 30,000 feet above the ground. It descends at a rate of 2,000 feet per minute. 2,000 per minute. So M is going to be minute. And that's the same as our x. Okay? And then we have feet, and that would be the same as our y, and that's how many feet we are traveling at. Okay, so let's see if we could just substitute right into our equation. Where is that plane starting? That plane is starting at 30,000 feet. So my slope is equal to 2,000 feet falling, negative 2,000 per minute. Okay, because you're falling down, you're descending, we're going down. So that's going to equal negative 2,000. And our y-intercept, where is the plane starting? The plane is starting at 30,000 feet. That's its starting point. And then it descends or it goes down 2,000 feet per minute. Per. Whenever you see that word per, you know that has to be your slope. That is your constant rate. All right, so my equation is going to be F equals negative 2,000 M plus 30,000. Okay, so it's going down 2,000 each time. What does the slope mean? The slope means that the plane descends 2,000 feet per minute. And what does the y-intercept say? That's 30,000. That is where the plane starts. That's its initial starting point. Okay, at what altitude will the plane be after 8 minutes? So let's do F equals negative 2,000 M plus 30,000. And we're looking for 8 minutes. So we know that we have to substitute that in for M. So negative 2,000 times 8 plus 30,000. Okay, so F is going to be equal to negative 16,000 plus 30,000. F is going to be equal to 14,000. So after 8 minutes, the plane is at 14,000 feet. Okay, again, F is equal to negative 2,000, M plus 30,000. How long will it take the plane to be at the ground level, or 0 feet? How long? That means it's asking for the minutes. So I'm going to put 0 in here, negative 2,000 M plus 30,000. Subtract 30,000 from both sides, and I would get 30,000 equals negative 2,000 M. Divide by negative 2,000, and I would get 1, 2, 3 off. That would be positive 15. So after 15 minutes, the plane is on the ground.